Welcome. We're going to review a couple topics from Homework 1 in the My Programming Lab. These set of notes will review input. Recall that all inputs are read from the keyboard as type string. If you want a different type, you must create it. Take a look at the code in this cell. We have string number equals input, enter a number, and then we print that number. I'm going to run this. We see the prompt to enter a number. I will enter the number 23, and then we see that number printed. The next instruction says int number equals int input, enter a number. Now this time we're going to take that input and transform it into an integer variable. I'm going to run it. We'll enter the number 13. And we see the output from the print statement again showing us 13. Now looking at str or string number with a value of 23 printed and looking at int number 13 after printing, they both look like numbers, but without forcing the int as we did with int number. String number is actually two characters. Character 2 followed by character 3. Let's move on to the next one. This says enter a number with a decimal component. We see here that we're reading this in and making it into a float variable. So I'll make this just the number 2. Now even though I typed an integer number, it's being transformed into a float. And there we see it when we print it as 2.0. Reminder, you cannot do arithmetic with a string and a number, whether it's an int or a float. Up above we had created 3 numbers, string number, int number, and float number, and here we are attempting to add string number plus int number. Let's see what happens. Python is yelling at us, not too loud, but it's saying it can only concatenate string, not int, to a string. Now we're trying to do arithmetic here, addition arithmetic, but because string number is type string followed by that plus sign, Python thinks we are trying to do string concatenation with an int, and it cannot and will not do it. We'll get a type error. So we did not even get to the print statement on line 2 because we had a crash error on line 1 with no good number trying to be set to concatenating a string with an int. Our next example shows us reversing this. Well, how about if we use the int number first, the plus sign, and then string number? We'll run it. We're getting a little bit different error message, but the idea is the same. We cannot do plus operations with numbers and strings mixed. This time it says unsupported operand for plus, meaning addition, int, and string. This is because the integer was first in the expression, so it is trying to do integer plus arithmetic, and it cannot do that with a string. The next one shows the string with the float, and judging from up above you can pretty much predict that this is also wrong, so this too will not run. Let's run it, and we get the error message unsupported operand for plus, float, and string, just as we saw with the int. Our last example says you can do arithmetic with float and int. The result will always be a float. So here we see OK number set to adding int number and float number. Up above, int number was 13 and float number was 2.0. So our result is 15.0. It will be type float, even though the first number there was the int. Happy Python coding!